Yeah, that tends to be my thinking, is that you could use kind of engineered AI to shape the dynamics of the overall internet into something that's more mind-like, and you could get a lot of leverage that way, because there is a lot of resources on the internet out there that could become part of a mind, but whether a mind is really going to evolve spontaneously out of the internet, I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to say it's absurd and ludicrous and could never happen. I mean, we need to be kind of humble in the face of the unknown, because
Sure, sure.
there's never been an internet before. There's never there's never been an internet with tens of thousands of different narrow AI
Right.
programs
Like you would say,
before.
with all of the narrow AI that's out there and all of our connections and programs and people working, that obviously there is some enhanced capability that humans have now that's far and above what we had even
Yeah,
10 years
I
ago.
mean, what I don't, I mean, what I don't see is how a mind with a vaguely human-like mind architecture could emerge. Because if you look at how the human mind is structured, it's not a disorganized soup of neurons. It's not really a society of mind. I mean, there is that aspect where you have a very spontaneous, self-organizing, emergent dynamics in the brain. But there's also a quite rigid architecture. I mean, we have the hindbrain,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
which came from our reptiles, right? And then
right,
we have goals and motivations that are wired in from our physiology, and
right,
a lot of our behavior is oriented toward fulfilling these top-level goals. Then there's a quite specific architecture with parts of the brain for vision, parts for audition, parts for planning action, parts for language, parts for temporal sequencing. So there's a high-level architecture which is quite specific, and there's all the kind of wild, creative, self-organizing dynamics of human intelligence occurs within a certain high-level architecture. And the internet doesn't have a mind architecture like that. It has the wild, self-organizing dynamics, but without that higher-level architecture, you're not going to get a mind that's anything like a human-level
okay,
mind.
all right. Well,
Although you might get some other amazing kind of intelligent dynamics that we never envisioned before, though,
that
right? I
help
mean,
us along, right? Yeah.
or that does contacts the aliens from Universe 77. I mean, who the hell knows, right? I mean, it's just hard to predict. But you're not going
Okay.
to get a mind that's architected like a human mind.
Okay,
No.
okay. But
Yeah.
speaking of that higher level architecture and goal systems and stuff like that, you've been interested in artificial general intelligence for a couple of decades now, and you've been specifically working on it for the last 5 or 6 or 7 years, intensely working on it. And what is the stumbling block that you've encountered? I mean, obviously, if you think way back to the 50s and 60s, and Turing and Minsky and all, they're making grand predictions about artificial intelligence that was going to come about by 1980, 1990. What's the main stumbling block? What's going on out here? I know other people have discussed it and talked about it and said, well, we just need more software, we need more hardware, this or that. What's your opinion on what's holding us back at
Well,
this point?
I think that hardware at this stage is not the problem. I think it was the problem as recently as 5 years ago. So I
Okay.
think we've only with cloud computing, we've only recently got to the stage where you can throw a hell of a lot of hardware at a software program written in C++ or some conventional programming language, and that's it's a great thing. I mean,
Sure.
programming for the cloud is not trivial by any means, but I think now it's unlikely that hardware is the problem. I don't think you could make a human level AI on my MacBook, for example, but I think you could make one on the Amazon
Cloud.
compute cloud.
Okay.
Yeah, right. So I don't think hardware is the problem, and I don't think the lack of the right kind of operating systems and programming languages and so forth is the problem. And I mean, I think the problem has been simply the lack of a viable software design, the lack of knowing how to do it, how to write the program to cause AI to come out of a network of computers.
Sure, and you're saying, I mean, basically, you just mentioned it a little bit ago that you would need a couple dozen researchers working 10 years in order to figure that out. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think that I have articulated a moderately detailed software design, which, if implemented and if all the details were worked out, I believe would create a human-level thinking machine. So I think the software design can work, and I've placed a version of that design online on the opencog.org website. It's called OpenCog Prime. So
Okay.
And you can ask why, if you have the design worked out, would it take a bunch of people a bunch of years to implement it? And my answer is that's really just the way the complex software works. I mean, if you look at, look at operating systems. I mean, why did it take Microsoft years and years to release Windows Vista, which isn't even a good operating system?
Oh,
I mean,
it's terrible. Don't get me started.
Right. So, I mean, they had a design for that written out in hundreds and hundreds of pages of documents. They have a lot of money. They had a lot of smart people working on it, and it still just takes a reasonable-sized team a number of years to work out all the little details to get a complex piece of software to work. And I think that AGI is no different than any other kind of software in that way. Yeah,
I see where you're going.
Even when you know what to do, it's still a lot of work, and it's not that typing in the code is necessarily the problem. There's just a whole bunch of minor level computer science problems you have to solve, whether you're building Windows Vista or building the OpenCog Prime thinking machine or whatever.
Okay.
It still work. I mean, the difference is that you can get funding to build Windows Vista because there's not so much skepticism attached to it, right? I mean,
yeah, that's right.
People believe you can make an operating system.
Right, that's right.
People don't believe you can make an AI.
Yeah, that's right. There is that stumbling block as well. People think that it is kind of a out there project, building artificial general intelligence. But one of the people viewing tonight in the text chat asked about how to go. He believes, he's been working on the problem for a while. Thinks he has a mathematically rigorous explanation for friendly AI or implementation, and he asked whether or not it's should be out in the public domain, or how would he release his idea if it is truly groundbreaking in the field of artificial general intelligence. Now, like you said, you have opencog.org, and you released a design, OpenCog Prime, there, and it seems as though being open about artificial intelligence research would be the most safe route to developing it. What advice would you give for this person that asked about that? How to release, information about?
I mean, in general, whether openness is the safest approach, I think is not 100% clear.
Okay.
There are reasonable arguments that it is, and there are reasonable arguments that it isn't. So, I mean, if you have it designed for a thinking machine, whether to open it up or not is sort of a subtle question. Obviously, I decided to do so, but not without some reservations. On the other hand, what this individual in the chat room is talking about is a kind of theoretical solution to that
friendly AI
problem of making a friendly AI from an economics perspective. And something like that, on the face of it, I can't think of any good reason not to post that online and publish it in some peer-reviewed journal and get it out there. That seems like the kind of thing that would benefit from being thrown out into the community, so it could be built on by others.
Okay. Well, thanks for answering that question. Also, just came up too about intelligence augmentation. I remember seeing you in an interview talking about how you would hope you would be able to slowly augment yourself from being a human into becoming a transhuman. However, most people think that the advent of artificial general intelligence or a singularity event or something like that will happen extremely rapidly. I mean, in the